Welcome, fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together. All right, guys, welcome to episode 54, the Mesa Postrace show.
Yeah. So what a race, man. So I don't know if it picks up on the audio, but you know, I've got a little bit of the sinus stuff that that you had to deal with.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we did the pre-race episode last week and we were both feeling pretty good, I think. And then what was it? I flew down right not long after we recorded, I think the next day, and then you flew down the day after I did, and then we kind of did our own thing for a couple of days, and then what was it? Friday was the check-in, and you show up and you're just like, I'm like, dude, you don't sound good. You sound kind of miserable. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was I just got some sinus stuff, and then I was just nursing it all week long, trying to make sure it didn't go into my lungs.
Yeah.
And just all hopped up on NyQuil and DayQuil. And
right?
Just
nothing like a little amphetamines to get your heart rate up.
Keep it going, keep the blood pressure high.
Did you use the real Sudafed?
No, I was going to, but then I was like, every time I went to a pharmacy, the line was so long, and I was so tired and just sick, and just be like, I was just so put off. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. Forget it,
man.
So.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you know, sometimes it just happens. And so Friday, you were really like feeling it. I could tell. We did a little shakeout run before we went to the check-in, right? And I could tell because it was a little bit of a downhill, and I could tell like you were mouth breathing.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
So my sinuses were so like stuffed up that all I could do was mouth breathe. Yeah. And then it played into the race too. I was just mouth breathing the whole race, and my mouth was so dry. I was so thirsty.
I felt bad. I really did. And so while we were just poking around in Mesa in the Phoenix area, I went to a shoe store.
Nice.
Yeah. And They were one of those shops that does like the high technology foot scan and custom molded inserts and the whole get up. And I told my wife when we went in, I was like, I can't really get any new shoes, like nothing new on race day, right? That's the rule. Oh, what? Just break all the rules, you know? So I go in and they actually had the shoes I was looking for, and I tried them on and I didn't like them.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, this is a good chance not to. This means I should not buy new shoes. But then there was another pair. And so these were
anything about the thing I know about a shoe store is they got a lot of pairs.
There's always another pair.
There's another pair. Yeah.
And so I asked the kid if I could try those on, and he's like, sure. Like they'll put you in any shoe. Yeah. I don't care. It's like buying a car. You want it? Sure, anything. So anyway, I tried it on. I was like, man, this feels great. And I didn't really think about it when I had him grab it off the shelf, but it's one of those super shoes. It's got the carbon plate. It's got the whole thing, man. I'm like, so I asked him, is this going to make me faster? He kind of looks at me.
He's like so fast.
He's like, you can run around the store in it if you want. You can run on that treadmill over there if you want to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, well, I already got my run in today. I don't know if it's a good idea. And so I kind of jogged around the store a little bit, you know. Carbon plates don't work so well when you're just jogging in a store, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't really tell anything. So anyway, I bought them. Fast forward, I bought them.
Yeah. Well, you got the foot scan and all that stuff, right? Like, did you find that worthwhile? Like the gait analysis and all that stuff? Do you think they got you into a shoe that was correct, or do you think it's kind of like a marketing gimmick?
Well, I think it's the right thing. I think it's doing that is the right thing. But what's interesting about the foot scan was that it sized me. So the scan results came back. First of all, I had a full size difference between my left foot and my right foot, according to the scan. So the kid was like, well, let's do it on the other machine. I'm like, wait, so you got to have two machines in case one's not right?
Right.
And so we scanned on the other one, and it was like a half size difference. And it's like, well, that's more normal. He's like, it's not uncommon to see half size differences. Like, okay, fine. So then I go, well, but that's like a full size to a size and a half smaller than what I normally wear. It's like, you can pull those shoes out. I'll try to jam my foot in there, but
right.
you know, one of two things is going to happen. My toes are going to go through the other side, or my foot's going to feel like a sardine can. You know, it's ridiculous. So, he's like, no, I believe you. I believe you're in the right size now. And I'm like, well, I could be. I said, I know I wear bigger shoes than I wear about a half size bigger than what I'm supposed to. So, but anyway, I mean, the scan kind of felt gimmicky.
Okay.
I mean, it has like, I don't know, 8 cameras or 8 sensors around your foot that's supposed to do all this 3-dimensional stuff. And I don't know, maybe it just didn't know what he was doing. I don't know. Could be wrong, but
yeah.
Maybe I'll go try that again somewhere else. But that really didn't give any input to like the type. Like, they recommended a couple of Brooks shoes, and I'm not really big on Brooks. I mean, not that people wear them, it's fine, but it just wasn't a shoe for me. But then they did the gait analysis, and I thought the kid was just like eyeballing it, but he actually had the iPad down and he recorded. And so they have software that checks your ankle, you know, and apparently I need a shoe that has a little more support. I've never worn a shoe with support. I've never had any, you know, any kind of issues with pain or injury or anything like that. So I've never worn support shoes, but he's like, yeah, you should probably look at those. I mean, I was like, well, could it be because I did my run earlier and I'm just like, plus I'm walking on a treadmill and I'm not really,
right.
You know, so yeah, I don't know. I don't think I really took a lot out of the analysis part of it. I mean, it was like, that's part of what they do when you sign up to get to try on a shoe. That's what they do. They don't even bring a shoe out until you try that. So, okay, fine. So it didn't cost anything other than my time. So
that's good.
Yeah. So anyway, so I bought the shoes, carbon plate, and those are the ones I wore Friday for our shakeout run.
Yeah.
And
don't get me wrong, I was trying to get you to just run them on race day too. Just be like, you're like, oh, my front part of my shin kind of hurts. I'm like, yeah, that won't flare up again.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Just don't worry about it. Just running them, man.
I know, man.
I was pulling out all the stops to try to get you
I could tell. And that was the thing. Like, I really wanted to, I really wanted to try to pace in those shoes a little faster, but it's supposed to be an easy run, right? 3 miles the day before. And
yeah, we ran, but we kicked it up at the end.
Yeah, we did. But yeah, those first couple of miles, like the front of my left shin was on fire. I was like, man, I don't know if that's the shoe. Like, this is why, you know, if I had just put those shoes on in race day and didn't even try them out,
you might not be walking today.
Right? Or it would have gotten in my head and just been like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to back off the pace today, right?
Yeah.
Because I can't risk an injury, or I don't want to. And what it turned out to be was, yeah, my shin hurt after about 2 miles of a 3-mile run. It kind of backed off, and we ran a harder pace, and everything felt okay. Like, I didn't have any lingering effect throughout the day. But yeah, raced that night in the hotel. I put my other shoes that I brought. I put those on. I was like, I am definitely going to wear these. I'm not taking the chance. I don't need any, like, this race is going to be hard enough. I don't need to make it harder by, you know, adding complexity to it right now.
Right.
So yeah, I think it worked out really well. I'm glad I did. Now, I still brought the shoes home. I can't wait to try a 5K in them though.
Yeah.
Cause I have a feeling that 5K is going to fly.
Yeah.
You know, those shoes, when we were running that higher pace, or faster pace, it was nice. So
nice.
Yeah, we'll see.
Good.
Yeah, but I'm not a convert yet. I'm not ready to start buying like $300 shoes for races. I'm not quite there yet. So.
Yeah, not all bought in on the carbon plating, all that stuff.
We'll get into the actual results of the race here in just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was fun getting down there, enjoying the warm weather. Was beautiful. I know you got a buddy that lives down there, and you guys, I'm sure, had a great time, even though you were probably got his whole household sick. So I'm sure he appreciates that. So.
I bought them extra Dayquil. They'll be all right. Like, they'll live.
Don't worry, I bought a truckload of Dayquil and I left it behind for him.
I left it for you. So.
Now he's on a watch list for all the Dayquil that's in his house. So yeah.
So, anyway. But yeah, well, we got some, moving on to a little bit of news this week. Yeah. Have you heard the super big news?
Well, there's a couple of things I heard. The one was around TrainerRoad, right? And Zwift, is that what it was?
TrainerRoad and Zwift are now able to talk to each other.
Wow.
Long ago are the days of us pairing our trainers to TrainerRoad and then using our other devices to use a secondary power device to connect to Zwift so that we can kind of ride in Zwift and do our workouts in TrainerRoad.
I'm used to having like 4 different devices going on at the same time, and like,
it was like, and then one would drop out and then one would come in and like you'd have to start everything all over again. It was a pain. But now your TrainerRoad account is connected to Zwift. And so if you want to do your workouts on Zwift instead of seeing the blue bars, then you're good to go.
Yeah, and it looks just like any other Zwift workout, right? And I think so I had read too that it will import like the suggested workouts. So like if you're not actually in a training plan, but it just suggests the daily workout based on your recent training load, it'll like give those as opportunities as well. Like I think I'd seen you don't even have to really use the TrainerRoad app anymore.
No, unless you want to calendar your stuff in, and
which, I don't know. And then I'm just thinking about that, like so I already do TrainerRoad, right? You have it. And Zwift is just, in the wintertime especially. I think usually I pause Zwift in the summertime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like if you don't already have both, I don't know if it makes me want to buy both.
No.
But it's definitely for those of us, like you said, that are used to having like 6 different devices going at the same time. It simplifies the setup, and it's like, finally, it's like, what took so long? But then I guess it was more complicated than what you might think. At least that's what they want you to believe.
No, I think they just weren't using it as a priority, or they're trying to figure something out. And then I think what happened is when Training Peaks released their new training platform that's Zwift-like, it made it be like, well, why can't other platforms do this? Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, they shouldn't be able to talk to each other. And I think that kind of lit the fire under TrainerRoad to finally, just get with Zwift and do it.
Yeah. I mean, and not to get too far down the rabbit hole here, but you and I both tried out the Training Peaks software, and we could probably do a full review on it one of these days. But my first reaction was it has the potential to be a Zwift killer. I mean, it really does. It has a lot of good stuff. I like it, the road feel, or like the real life feel. It's trying to be like a real life simulator, not like a game simulator like Zwift is. And so like I like it better than Ruby. Yeah. I feel like the grades that it says tend to match up with my speed and the overall feeling of the bike. And I can't describe it more than just the feeling, because, I've ridden for, 20 something years or whatever. And 4 years and you want to count.
Yeah. And so when I'm going up a 3 or 4% grade, I know what that feels like. Right. And when I do it on Ruby, it just doesn't match. It just doesn't feel correct. Yeah. And so that's what I try to tell, like, my friends always ask me, like, hey, what do you think about Ruby, and what do you think about this and all that? And that's all I can say is that for me, it just doesn't feel the same. For some people, like, they probably just don't even care and they're just like riding. But for me, it's like, if it doesn't really match up, it really kind of irritates me.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause we tried Ruby a couple years ago, and we tried a route that we both rode in Colorado. Yeah. We know that road, and we know how long it took us to ride it at a certain power. And when you tried to simulate that or emulate that, it was nowhere close. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure it's gotten better. I mean, it's just one of those things, but, yeah. So now, I mean, it sounds like such a simple feature. And I mentioned that, like, they made it sound really complicated. Maybe it was, I don't know, but like, I think it's going to make the experience so much better. Cause I mean, one of the big knocks on TrainerRoad was I just don't like to stare at blue bars all the time. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if it helps either platform gain any subscribers. Yeah. It feels like a very neutral type of move. Like, what does TrainerRoad gain out of it other than just convenience for its current customers? Is it really going to help them? It's like somebody sitting there going, man, I'd really sign up for TrainerRoad if it just had Zwift integration. Like, I don't know if
but the problem is you're paying for both subscriptions, and both subscriptions are like 20, I think TrainerRoad.
It's almost $500 a year total.
Yeah. So you're paying $500 a year, which is, I mean, in the scheme of things, it's not a lot. Like, you pay for, if you're going to go for like a private coach or something like that, you're going to pay more for that. But again, you're getting somebody who's looking at your data and
Yeah.
prescribing you the perfect workouts and all that other stuff.
All the AI stuff. How many times? I mean, as much as we like a lot of the things with the AI, how many times have you and I both said, "Yeah, it's all right," but I mean, the whole red light, green light system they have is kind of okay.
Yep.
I keep coming back to, I think TrainerRoad is great for the the person that wants to take it seriously, but not seriously enough to really take it seriously.
Yeah. Well, I think there's
which is why I still subscribe to
right.
it.
It's the people that want to take it seriously, but then they don't want to go crazy, right? Like,
yeah,
I think there's a difference. Like me and you, like riding bikes, triathlon, and all that other stuff it's a little bit more than a hobby, I would say.
Given just a scotch.
Scotch on the other side of a hobby.
Yeah.
Where I think the vast majority of people, it's a hobby and it works great.
It's an embarrassment what percentage of my income and time goes to the hobby.
It is insane about, I mean,
it's that meme that you see that says the average person spends $200 a year on their hobby, and you're just like,
right.
I don't know about that. Maybe on nutrition.
Right. I don't even think that, like a month, maybe. Depends on,
So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, I think the AI is fine. And it's really probably very good for those that primarily do running or biking as their primary, and then kind of occasionally do the other.
Yep.
Obviously TrainerRoad being cycling focused, but it's like how many times we talked about, well, there aren't exactly a lot of plans in TrainerRoad for go do an Unbound 200 and then do an Ironman and, a week after that, or even a month after that.
I mean, and that's the limitations that we've talked about too, is that, the types of stuff that we're doing is kind of outside the bell curve of what those plans and those features can go. But I really think, like, if you're just starting in triathlon or gravel or anything like that, I mean, you're not getting to the ultra long distance stuff yet, and you're not getting too wild with it. I mean, that kind of AI stuff is way, it's worth it's for $25 a month. It will make you so much faster.
And it's a good safety net too, if you don't really know where your limits are. And you hear people all the time like, oh, just listen to your body. Like, well, a lot of people don't know how to listen to their body, and how many times, cause I do it too. Like how many times you maybe took a little bit of time off and then you're just like, well, I'm okay. I can jump back into a 4-hour ride and just take it easy. And then you hammer a 4-hour ride. And then you're like, well, why can't I complete my threshold 2 days later? Well, because you're still recovering from a 4-hour ride that you haven't done in 6 months. It's that kind of stuff. And a lot of times you just don't know what does that actually mean to listen to your body. And so that red light, green light thing is pretty nice for me. I'm not trying to do a full breakdown review of TrainerRoad. I just think I'm just trying to figure out, like, I think it's great they did this. I just don't know, what does Zwift gain out of this? Like, how many people didn't have Zwift because they love staring at the blue bars of TrainerRoad? You know what I mean? But you know what? Maybe neither company gets a whole lot out of it. It's just, hey, we want to make a better product. That'd be great. That'd be nice to see for once. But I think it's pretty awesome. I'm anxious to kind of use it. Although I have to admit, my training plan right now is a semi-customized plan that I bought a plan because I'm like, hey, you know what? I got some ideas for this year for how to approach Unbound, and taking some of the things we've learned over the last couple years and like, how can I approach both, open range as an A race and then Unbound as another A race, but really close. So, how can I approach these a little differently than the years past? Because I felt like I was spent way too much time in the lower end of the zones and didn't really ever sharpen the knife, so to speak. And so I got a little bit of a custom thing going on, but I think I can probably still leverage some of TrainerRoad and try it out. I mean, I am excited to give it a shot. It's going to be cool to finally have that integration. So,
well, it's nice too that you get the, if you use Training Peaks too, it integrates. So like if the plan's loaded into Training Peaks, then you can load it into Zwift. So it's,
got options.
Like you hear us talking about it, but like, we get plans loaded into Zwift by like 2 other platforms now. So it's kind of nice being able to just go into one app and then be able to hammer out a, bike ride, or if it was a run. I mean, I know you did a lot of running and stuff. So
I did a lot of running on Zwift this year because the weather being so miserable and the half marathon training, I just use that as a chance to, just break up the monotony of being on a treadmill. And I tell you, it's not as exciting as Zwift on the bike is at least tolerable, and you're moving faster, and the world changes, the scenery changes. But running, it's like it's so slow, and all these bikes just go flying by all the time. And I'm just like, but it was funny because I was running one day, and I sent you a screenshot of my Zwift as I was running because Paige was on there, Paige Runwell was on there, and I was like, holy crap, I'm getting past my Paige, like, and I'm just running. I'm like, so I thought that was pretty funny. You never know who you're gonna see.
Exactly. So, I mean, you never know who's gonna be on there. So,
I thought when you said the news, I mean, because we brought up the Training Peaks Virtual, and did you see that they have a new graphics update that came out? So I haven't seen it yet. I haven't actually tried it, but it's like you're starting to see the investment that's coming into that product, and I'm telling you, I think it's going to be really interesting over the next year or so. Where does the sort of population start to move to? And you're starting to get to a point where I think there are almost too many platforms, because they're not all at the same level, but you've got Ruby, you've got Training Peaks Virtual, you've got My Whoosh, you got Zwift, you got is it Komoot or something like that? Like, is another one. I can't remember the name. I may have that totally wrong, but there's another platform out there and some of these do more than just cycling and running. Like, there's one that's a rowing. It has rowing on it, which I thought was interesting. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see kind of what happens and I think it's a great thing having all the competition, because it forces, like, the one gripe I've had about Zwift is I think they got a little stale for a while, and you saw it when they started to feel some of the pressure and competition. All of a sudden, next thing you know, they've got new game modes coming out and different worlds and maps, and it's like, it's going to be interesting to see how they react to the competitive pressure. So be fun.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then while we were in Mesa, Danny got actually his hands or feet on a kicker treadmill.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna put our editing skills to the test. So we're gonna have some of the video on here for the broadcast. But yeah, so the Wahoo kicker, the kicker run. We've talked about this since last fall.
Oh my gosh, we're talking about it like all the time.
And how many times, I think I even joked on the podcast a couple of times, like, oh, if I could just get running inside, it would be so much better if I just had a $5,000 treadmill. And I joke about that, but it's like, then you see the reviews and people are like, oh, I love running inside. Like, I always hated treadmills before. Now I love running inside. I'm like, no, you don't. Who likes to run? That's like telling me you got a runner's high. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
And so I'm just like, I don't know. $5,000's a lot of money just to separate from myself. And
it's not an expensive treadmill. It's almost like 500 pounds. Mm-hmm. So like when you order it, like they come to your house, they put it in whatever room that you're doing it. It's not like the thing's moving around. Yeah. Like it's a solid piece of equipment for sure.
It is. So I had a chance to run on the one that they had two there, and I had a chance to run on one of them. And the guy that was kind of going over all the features, first question he asked me was like, are you familiar with Wahoo? And I'm like, I've spent an embarrassing amount of money on Wahoo things. So yes, I'm very familiar. He's like, well, good. You made my job a lot easier. So rather than just kind of give me the generic overview, he starts talking about, started giving me some little tips about how people adapt to running on it faster, in terms of like, because it is an adjustment. Like,
it's not like any treadmill that you have. And you like, it has a sensor that like tells how far your body is. And so if you get close to the sensor, it starts to speed up. And then what it's trying to do is, like what he was saying was like trying to keep you in this pocket. Right? Of where you need to be. And so you were trying to gauge that. I saw.
Yeah. I kept, and so one of the things he said was, one of the best thing you can do is just look ahead, like look forward. And so of course in the demo, they've got like this big 97-inch TV that's right there, and I'm like, so what you're telling me is I have to invest in a 97-inch TV to put downstairs in my pain cave, because that's the only way I'm gonna be able to run on this thing.
Right.
And, so number one, I went into this highly skeptical because, again, $5,000 is a lot of money on a treadmill. And I know all the people out there like, oh, but it's an elite treadmill and you can run a 4-minute mile. That's all great. It's still $5,000.
Yeah. Okay. Still money.
And the other thing is there's a lot of marketing that I have to figure out. Like, me as a consumer, I can't stand marketing. Like, I appreciate, like, it grabs my attention, but then I try to pick it all apart because I'm like, well, what's real and what's marketing? Because we've all fallen into the marketing traps. And one thing I found is in cycling and in running and endurance sports in general, there's a lot of marketing out there that, kind of fools you. Wahoo, I think, does a really good job of, yes, they market it, but their product also typically backs it up. And I figured that out first with like the kicker bike when I had that. Was it perfect? No. Was it everything they said it would be? About 90%. So that's a passing grade. That's an A. I'll take that.
Yep.
So I did go into it skeptical because $5,000 for a treadmill, and it's there's a lot of hype, and that's one thing I'm not used to from Wahoo products is the hype, because a lot of times they're like, especially the kicker trainer, like the core and the like the move and all that stuff, and then the kicker bike, they didn't get a lot of hype at first. Like, you remember when the trainers first came out, like that was like, no, they're the real deal. Like they're so much better. They were like,
this is just a kicker, kicker, you put your bike on it and you ride. And then everybody's like, this is the best trainer. And it was so
much better than any of the wheel on trainers. Like it just jumped past everybody. And I think I want the kicker run to do the same thing for treadmills, but at the same time, I'm trying to be cautious. So that's why my fingers hovered over the buy button for almost 6 months now. And I kept telling you, like, man, if I get a chance to try one, that might be what seals the deal. So it is. So you mentioned it's built like a tank. So that was the first thing I noticed when I got on it. It feels like you're walking on just any normal road or path or anything like that. If it weren't for the visual cues that you're up above everything else around you being up on that platform, you would think you're just walking down your favorite running trail. When you start picking up the pace, like there's no give in the platform itself. Like it doesn't, most treadmills, I think we talked a little bit about this right afterwards. Most of the treadmills, like they have that flex that's sort of designed into the treadboard. And it's like, that's great. I think it's there to reduce injury, but a lot of times, like, it feels like wasted energy.
Yeah, it feels like you're just kind of running on soft sand, and it just doesn't really like provide a adequate feedback. So like when you're running outside, you're like, man, this hurts more. Like I wish my treadmill was a little harder to like prepare me for this.
Right. And so that was the other thing I noticed was how, like, in a good way, how rigid it was. So there was no like flex. Like, a lot of times and even the treadmill I have now, it was not a cheap treadmill, but like it has like, you can feel the flex in the treadmill.
Oh yeah. Mine like kind of shakes because I'm so big. It kind of like it fishtails a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and even like some of the higher end, newer treadmills I've seen, they do this, but they're designed to have some amount of flex because there's injury prevention. At least that's what they tell you. So those are the first two things I noticed, the sheer weight of it, like you could just tell, and it's just such a very well built product. Like all that hype stuff that you see about that side is, I believe that's true. Then they start kind of going into the features that you were talking about, like the run free, which was what I really wanted to try out. And that thing is kind of freaky at first, because again, just like that, I hate to repeat a lot of the review videos, but these are the key points that people always bring up. It's really interesting when you start running, and like you said, it keeps you in this pocket. Yeah. It is real easy. I think until you get used to it, it would be really easy just to overshoot your paces all the time, because there's no feedback other than your feet moving too fast. Like there's no visual feedback. Like I'm running faster than I should be running until my legs are on fire. Then I realize I'm running too fast, because that thing will just, like, it's instantaneous, man.
It'll
like
just go.
Like I was running much faster than I intended to run. And I wasn't fast, but it was just, I wasn't intending to run as fast as I was in like sub 7 minute mile and I'm just running in like tennis shoes. I didn't have my actual, so it's like, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. So I think it'd be real easy to overshoot your paces until you kind of get used to it. And then the other thing is when you slow down, like if you like, there's no stop button on it.
Yeah.
So that was the thing too. He's like, well, just go ahead and stop whenever you're done. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I hit the paddle and I slowed all the way down. I'm like,
no, just stop.
Just stop. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you don't have to do anything. Just stop. Like, don't quit thinking of it like it's a treadmill, because it's not a standard treadmill. It's going to stop you before you get to the end. And that's the other thing, is the length of the platform itself it's a little bit longer than like most treadmills, and I'm a shorter guy, but like still like you always fear going off the back of the treadmill.
Right.
Like that's everybody's biggest fear, right? And like,
Yep.
and so it was a little weird and sort of unsettling to just stop and let it kind of drive you to the back, and then it stops. And I kind of wonder how many people like slow down like to do from and then get ready to go again, and like they lurch too far forward or something like that. But anyway, I I have to say the responsiveness of the speed changes were it was pretty incredible, and not having to touch anything, just focus on your effort.
Right.
Like that to me, anytime that you can take all those variables out and just focus on your effort, like that's quality training. It's gonna pay. That's gonna pay off.
Yeah.
So, is it worth $5,000? I mean, that's everybody's individual. Like, is it worth it? I don't know. Probably. I mean, so when we were talking, I would characterize it as, is it $5,000 worth of like product? Meaning, like, is it well built, well constructed? Is it high quality?
Am I going to get, your price per mile maybe is what you would want to think about.
Is it going to do what
how
you
long
want it
can
to
I
do?
run on this before I have to change a part or something like that?
Right. And I would say just eyeball test. Yeah, it's a $5,000 product. I can get, are they making a lot of money off of it? I'm guessing they probably are, but probably not as much as people think.
Yeah.
Like I have a feeling, I don't know Wahoo's business strategy, and I'm not going to sit here and try to dissect it. I have a feeling they're probably not making as much margin as everybody thinks they are at a $5,000 treadmill, but they're not losing money. If they're losing money on it, that's their fault.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have charged $6,000 because they could probably get it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that kind of a piece of equipment. But I do think that it's something I'll give a lot of consideration to buying. There's a really good chance that if I can, settle it in my own mind to drop that kind of money on it, I'll probably end up getting one someday. But then there's a part of me that's like, well, how long do you wait and see if they come out with the version 2? And the problem with version 2 of things is, yes, they tend to fix a lot of things and refine, but then they also tend to maybe, cheapen something up too. Not Wahoo necessarily, but just products in general.
Yep.
So I don't know. We'll see. It was a great experience though. Like it was really a lot of fun.
You kept trying to get me to go on it, and I was like, it's the same thing that, why my wife doesn't let me ride bikes at the bike shop is because I'll come home with it.
Yeah, so. I know. I hear you. They did give a QR code that gives like a special deal. I scanned it, and I can't say what it is. I'm sure I can, but like, I'm like, ooh, not enough temptation there. They had better Black Friday deals. I wish I would have, like, if I had known then what I know now about it, I probably would have bought it on Black Friday when they were giving away like the headwind and all of that. I would have probably just hit the buy button and not even look back. And so I think there's a lot of people that would say, well, why would I spend $5,000 on a treadmill when I can just go run outside for free, right? Yeah, that's great. But when it's 10 degrees outside and there's 6 inches of snow on the ground,
you're not really going to get your quality running on, outside. Like I'm all for running in that. Like you can, if you don't have a race, sure. Like I'll put my spike shoes on, I'll kit up and I'll go run, 13-minute miles or whatever, 15-minute miles or walk sections. But like, if you're preparing for a race and it snows and you don't have access, like you need some place to run safely to get, your intervals in. Yeah. It's like, I understand that running can be done all year round, but unless you're training for some kind of off-road endurance type run, running on snow in the area is just, it's not worth it. It's not, it's the same thing. Like I'm not outside riding my bike right now.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we could, the roads are clear enough. I guess you could go out and ride, but you just risk way too much, I think. Yeah. The other side of it too, for me, is I don't know if I take running seriously enough to justify that kind of purchase. I think it's the old thing, like if I were more invested in it, would I take it more seriously? And then it's like, but if you're not invested in it, if you're invested in it simply because of financial reason, not because you want to do it, then like, or how long are you going to stick with it? It's like, that's why so many people buy an elliptical machine and it just ends up collecting clothes. Yeah. And so I am trying to be cautious of that, but I just think back, my first real, experiences running and doing races and things like that was, when we lived in Florida, and I do remember having a lot of fun. I mean, it's like the but I also wasn't like training.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like training was like go out and run 3 or 4 miles through the neighborhood and come back home and eat dinner.
Yep.
Now I think I understand more about like how to accomplish goals in training. And I think a tool like the Kicker Run would, like, I think I would start to hit goal paces and I would understand like what I need to do. And I could see like that goal of hitting a, sub 3 hour marathon and Boston qualifying. Like I could see that in sights if I had something like that to be consistent with my training in the off season during the winter time because when do I run? I run in the winter time. I don't run much in the summer.
Right.
Now, would I run more in the summer if I could be inside in the air conditioning and do it at like 6 o'clock in the morning? It's 80 degrees outside at 6 o'clock in the morning here in the summertime.
Yeah.
Am I going to go run in 80-degree weather at 6 in the morning? Hell no. But can I go downstairs and just hit the treadmill for a few miles and maybe knock out some intervals? Probably.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like, I don't know. I might do it. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Keep you all posted.
We'll keep you all posted on the Kicker Run update.
Maybe I ought to put like a key card access on the back door and start selling access to for people,
Just
like,
rent it out.
Just rent it out.
Pay by the half hour.
Anyway, so all right. Well, let's get to what everybody wants to talk about or what everybody wants to hear about. So the half marathon, the post-race recap.
Yeah.
So Travis was sick. We know that.
Yeah, I had the head cold.
Yeah.
I thought, here's what everybody wants. I almost thought I had a runner's high.
Is it really oxygen deprivation?
But I think when I was talking to the wife, she's like, I think you were just a little bit high on your
cold meds.
I was like, because I was running, I felt tingly all over, and she's like, yeah, that sounds like you were, because I don't know, it happened like mile 4 or 5. I think it was while I was still kind of in front of you, and I was like, just like my arms and my whole body just kind of felt like kind of tingly.
Did you like look down and see yourself running? Was it one of those?
No, it wasn't like that. It was just, I was just like, oh, this is, and then I thought to myself, I was like, oh my gosh, is this the runner's high? Is this what it's like?
This is what everybody talks about.
Is this what it feels like?
How do I hold on for like 9 more miles?
And then of course it went away.
It went away. Well, then you had it. That was it.
I don't know.
We're going to go with that.
I'm just saying, if that was the runner's high.
Yeah. Then you need to buy DayQuil to have every time. I'm
just saying, you guys are really missing out on some other stuff.
We need to work on your definition of high. Yeah.
I would call that like a running buzz, maybe a pre-buzz, maybe.
It's like 1 beer in kind of thing. Yeah.
Like half a beer.
Half a beer.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like 2 sips, and then you're like, you first feel it. You're like, oh, okay, I can.
Yeah. I can start to feel the effects of the alcohol.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, I was really bummed when Friday when we did that run, and I could tell you weren't feeling great. I was just hoping Saturday you would get up and you would, because you know how this stuff can go. It comes on fast, it can leave fast. And the good news is Saturday you didn't sound as horrible, but I know you probably didn't feel great because everybody knows like that stuff kind of lingers. So
yeah, I wasn't feeling too great, but I did dose up on meds, and I was like, well.
You just only got to go 2 hours minimum at the most. 2 hours. Right?
Yeah, that's what I told myself. I was like, you just got to get through 2 hours. It's like you can do it. Just and my plan was, I think we lined up. We could see the 150 pace group. Mm-hmm. They were in front of us, and so I was like, well, that's who we need to kind of stay with. And
that guy,
he was.
We'll
he
talk about him in just a minute. We're going to talk about him.
Let's just say. I think he was a little hot.
So we started off in the first mile, and here's the thing about these races like this. Like I love the fact that everybody kind of lines up on their own, and bless the guy that's up there running a 12-minute mile and lining up with the hour 30 pace group.
Yep.
I really appreciate having to have everybody fork around them.
Yep. Dodge around them and stuff. Yeah.
And this happens all the time, so it's like whatever. But there seemed to be a lot of people with that situation. And I told you my plan. I gave you my plan. I don't think you believed me, but I gave you my plan during our training runs. I kept saying like I'm going to start the first mile out a little slower than the goal pace. I want to kind of see where everything's at and then just kind of ratchet it up from there. And so that first mile was, I want to say it was just under 9-minute miles, like 8:40 something. I want to say maybe 8:40. Yeah, you're going to look it up. That's fine. But I'm pretty sure it was around 8:40 something. And so look, here's the thing. I was telling some other folks about this too. Like I'm not a runner. I've never been a runner. I have run a couple of times, several years ago, like I said, when I lived in Florida, and then took a long hiatus from it. And then now we've been doing this for the last 3 years, but I don't train consistently for running. So my paces, like, I don't brag about them because they're not fast, and I'm okay with that. But I had a goal of, my goal was 145.
Yep.
And I knew 3 weeks into training that was not attainable. I need to do more speed work. And so I set my goal then to 150 to 155, which is about like an 825 to like 845 pace roughly. And so I figured if I can start the first mile out around 8:45 to 9 as a warm-up mile, that would be a good thing. And so that's what I try to do. So what I run at
8:43.
Okay, so see there, it's close.
According to the monkeys.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So because we ran the first mile and a half or so together.
Yeah, we ran it together, and
not
then,
intentionally, but like we just kind of paced right.
Yeah, we were right next to each other, and it's like, he's a couple steps ahead of me, I'm a couple steps ahead of him. It's just kind of the way it played out. The first mile, maybe the second mile, I felt like I was like, ooh, this is going to be a little hard.
Yeah.
I think we got into the 8:20s on that second mile.
My left shin started to catch on fire again.
Yeah.
And that's when I think I looked over at you and I was like, it wasn't the shoes. but it was a good thing I didn't wear the new shoes, because I could rule out it wasn't the shoes. And so I could rule that out, and it just allowed me to say, well, you know what, just it'll work itself out. So.
Yep. And so, now I kind of pulled up, and I was like, I can't start off this hard. And so I just got to the part where it's kind of like you get into that appropriate suffering, so you're like, I'm gonna get the right level of suffering so that I know I can hold on to this for like 2 hours worth of suffering. And so that's what I did. And I ran basically 8:20s, 8:25 per mile for the rest of the thing, except for where I had like a breakdown.
Yeah. So you ran, you about mile 2, what was it? 2.5, maybe 3. After that first 5K, you ran up ahead of me a little bit, and you got to about, at one time you had about a 15 to 20 second lead on me. And the way I knew that was I could see you, for one. My goal was, when you pulled ahead, I was like, well, Travis is feeling good. So the head cold must have backed off a little bit. That's good. But you ran ahead, and I'm like, that's not uncommon. Like, even in our long run training runs, like when we were doing intervals together, you would run a faster interval pace and then, maybe back off a little bit or whatever as the miles started to stack up. So ChatGPT had you pegged like you're going to go out hot and then slow down. But that's what I was banking on. I was like, well, maybe he's feeling good. He's going to go out a little hot. So I just wanted to keep you in sight. And I knew if I could keep you at 20 seconds, I could make 20 seconds up in the final mile if I had to.
Yeah.
Because I was going to keep enough in the tank if I had to.
Yep.
So, so you went up the road, and I was watching every time we'd hit an aid station. I did not stop.
No.
And you would like stop enough to get your drink and then go. Like, you didn't walk it. I
was so thirsty.
Right? Because you're mouth breathing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It was so horrible.
So I was watching to make sure that you were just saying that 20 seconds and that 20 seconds or so turned into like 15.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kept looking down, and I was like, I'm going the same pace. I think Travis starting to slow down a little bit here. And that was between mile 4 and like 6 roughly. And so you got down to where I was counting, like you would hit like a stripe in the road or something, and I would just count it down, and you were about 8 seconds ahead of me. And I was like, I'm just catching you running my pace. I'm like, all right, I feel pretty good right now. I like how this is shaping up. But see, here's the thing. I wasn't racing you. I was using your pacing as a way to keep myself in check, so I didn't have to keep doing this the whole time.
You're like, because that how religious I am about that. So it's like, I would look at my heart rate, and at basically what we would do is when we I run by heart rate, and so I knew that I could run for 2 hours at 145 to basically 152.
Yeah.
And so what would happen is, on some of these sections, we would be running, and
depending on the way the road was, my heart rate would come up to 150. And so then I would have to back it down and come back down. And so like, that's where you were gaining on me because you were just kind of basing it off.
Yeah.
And so then, and the whole thing is that like, if I go above 152 and I go to 140, this is just for me. And these are my zones and my experience.
Yeah.
I'm on borrowed time then. So it's like, if you're going to go that high, then you better be close to the end because the wheels are on fire and they're coming off.
Wobbling,
the front shaking, the steering wheel's rattling, like it's going to start falling apart real quick. Yeah. So I knew if I could just hold on to it, and I was watching my pace, and I knew that like the speed that I was going and the heart rate, I was like, okay, just like if you just hold on to this, you're going to come really close to the goal. Yeah. To doing, if all you have to do is just hold on to this pace, and you'll be, you may have to sprint it in. Yeah, but you're going to be close. But you're going to be close enough. And beating your PR by 1 second is still a PR.
Still a PR.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
where did you so we were doing that, and I think around mile 7, because mile 7 is where the message board was supposed to be, and I didn't see it. I never saw it. Yeah. Sarah said she sent me a message, and I felt horrible because I didn't see it, and I told you I was going to send you a message that said, that you should just quit now, because I knew that would be what would motivate you.
Right.
But I never did. But anyway, so because you went kind of up over this little hill across railroad tracks or
it's the canal and the railroad tracks.
Okay, yeah. So we kind of go over that, and then it wasn't long after that I caught you.
Yep.
And I caught you, and now keep in mind we're on a pretty wide road, a section of road here, and so you kept running in the right, like almost in the bike lane, like you were way to the right.
Yeah. So constantly. I was trying to find like my right quad was starting to get pissed, and so like in the camber of the road. Yeah. So I was trying to find a way to like relieve that. So I was kind of looking
that's what you were doing. Okay.
I was looking for good ground to run on. Yeah. So it's not like I wasn't, I was doing it on purpose, but I was trying to find,
because I knew you didn't know where I was. You never looked back.
No,
to see, and you didn't care. I don't think.
I had the mentality of like, if I looked back there and he's sitting right behind me on my heels, I'm gonna flip out. So all I did was just look forward. Because I was like, it would be so demoralizing if I ran 4 miles, and you just were right back there going like, "Good job, buddy."
Nice work, man.
Yeah,
good job.
Keep it up. Thanks for breaking the wind.
Doing a great job up there.
Great pull.
Great pull. You're drafting off of me in a race, in a road race.
So,
come on.
So I didn't look back, and I even told myself not to look back. I was just like, just pretend like you dropped him, because there's nothing you can do. It's like, if I saw you back there, all it would do is make me demoralized.
And meanwhile, at that point, for that last mile before, you were anywhere from 5 to 8 seconds.
Yeah.
You never, from mile 6 to 7, a little over 7, where I caught you finally, you were never more than 5 to 8 seconds ahead of me.
Yeah. There was nothing I could do. And so my feeling was either he fell off and he's having a bad...
You thought I might be having a rough day.
Yeah, I was like, well, maybe he's having a bad day and his shin's acting up. And I was like, well, that's
good. I need to beat him.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
He suffers on the side of the road.
It's fine with me. He can call me. I'll come pick him up later.
That's right.
But the other thing is I can't do anything. I'm not that good of a runner that if I saw you, I could put a dig in. And recover from it. I didn't have that kind of fitness.
Yeah.
This is the first time in a running race that I've felt like I've had more control. I've had gears that I can use, and I've been able to back off a little bit, recover a little, and then push into the next thing. Which just is a testament to, just the training plan and the workouts that we did get in, and the fact that even though it just goes to show that if I just didn't get sick, I would have had such a much better race, which gives me like hope for the next race.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I was, when I was trying to, when I caught up to you, I was like I said, about less than 5 seconds off your back, maybe it's 7.25 miles. Cause my goal was if I get it to 10K, I wanted to negative split the 10K.
Yeah.
So I knew if I could get through the first, 7.7-ish miles, it's just 6.1 to go, right? 6.2 to go. So I could just try to negative split that, and I'd have a great race. So that didn't actually happen. I ran my fastest 10K in the the middle, like third of the race, which is kind of interesting. So
yeah, I ran my fastest in the middle of the race.
Yeah. So I wanted to catch you. I was debating, do I want to like run up next to you and do that? Like, oh, good job, buddy. And like really just demoralize you. Or if I wanted to go on the left side of the road, because it's like three lanes wide. The section of road was. And I was like, do I just want to pass you on the left side
and see if you can sneak
see if I can sneak by you? And then you never. And then finally, like something happened where people moved around. And so I ended up just running up next to you. And we just kind of ran side by side for about a half mile. And then I think I pulled ahead of you, and then you kind of came back and you pulled ahead of me for a little bit. And we were pretty much running next to each other up until about, what was it, like maybe just before mile 10 when we had that water stop?
Yeah, so there's one uphill section.
And I did the classic. There were 2 water stops. The first one, I did the classic, I'm going to bait
knock
Travis
all the drinks out of all of their hands.
And point it all up and just knock them all down. Yeah.
No,
like,
he didn't do that. No, but like, I didn't really care what he's going to do. I just thought it was kind of, I mean, I was like, good for him for skipping it. If you think he can skip it. I was like,
quick, I just grabbed it, sipped and threw it, and
there was nothing I could do to quench the dry mouth.
She came back on me, and I was like, all right, so that cost him a little energy. And again, I was just more having fun with you than anything. But because like I said, it was never a race against you. I mean, we always do this in like bike and everything. Like, we see each other and like we use that to like maintain, push, like because we ride so much or we run so much together. Like we know like how we feel and all this. So like it's just a good way to sort of be in check. You know. So knowing where you were, and I think you knowing where I was is a good way to sort of be a mental check of like, okay, everything's like together right now.
Yeah.
And so and then finally like mile 10, I think you had to like, I saw you out of the corner of my eye, like you came to like a walk.
Yeah, I pulled up because my quad was just like, it was like ready to just go and just send me to the shadow realm is what it was going to do. And so I like walked and I was like, oh, calm down, buddy, calm down. And so I kind of rubbed that out, and you got, I don't know, maybe quarter of a mile up the road. And then it kind of settled down, and then I was like, just, it's like, you're probably not going to catch him. Just keep him inside. Yeah. So then I would just keep going. And there was a time that I kind of caught up to you. Like maybe I was, I don't know, maybe 10 yards from you.
Yeah.
And then, we went through an aid station, and then the very last one. And then we started going down the big hill. Mm-hmm. And I thought the finish line was a mile before, or not a mile, but like
a quarter to a half mile.
Yeah, quarter. I thought the stoplight was where the finish line was. Like I thought it was a different street. I was one street like ahead. So I caught up then, and I was like really close. That's when I was about 10 feet, and I was like, I'm gonna freaking sprint him at the line. And then I look up and I see that it was not the street that we were going to be close to. And I was like, oh man. So I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have like a half a mile left.
Yeah.
And I was like, crap. And so I was just like, whatever. And so then I just kind of like let you drift off a little bit more. And then just you picked it up. And then I was like, well, if Danny's feeling good, there's one last downhill,
one last push,
and he's gonna either open it up or he's gonna just kind of hold on to it to get home. And you opened it up, so I was like, well, I'll open it up too, and then just finish.
Yeah, because so your struggle moment was mile 10 when your quad acted up.
Yeah,
and then mile 11 was the last aid station, I believe, or pretty close to it.
Yeah,
and that was the first aid station that I actually I grabbed the cup of water, whatever they had, I grabbed it. And I actually paused long enough to actually drink it, because every time before that I was just throwing the water in my mouth, and I started choking on it a couple of times, and like my heart rate was spiking and all this. So this time I was like, I can't do that again, because if I do, I might just fall over. So I paused long enough to actually drink it, throw the cup, and start running again. And so that probably cost me 2 or 3 seconds. I'm like, that can't be the difference in this race. There's no way. And so I mean, I kept looking down at my watch going, man, if I can just hold on to this 8:20-ish, whatever it is. And so we got to that last 2 miles of the race is downhill. And to your point, I think it's between mile 12 and 13, there's like a half mile, maybe a half mile stretch where it pitches down a little sharper. And that's the move that you were talking about, because I knew because we've run this race. This is the third time now we've run this part of the course. And I knew from that, if I could pick the pace up there, I knew I could gap you, because I had a feeling if I didn't know your quad locked up, but I had a feeling if something like that happened, you were just gonna have a hard time turning the feet over enough to keep that pace, or even at worst case you match it, but you weren't gonna catch me.
Yeah.
And so
at that point in the race, I had all I wanted to do was limit the loss, and just keep you within eyesight as long as I could.
And so that was in one part of my mind. The other part of my mind was I'm looking down at my watch at mile 11, that part I was telling you about when I grabbed the water. I glanced at my watch and I'm like, I saw the mile 11 sign, and I knew I had just barely over 2 miles. And I look at my watch and I'm like, I got a shot to break 150, which would be phenomenal, because my goal originally was 145. And I'm like, man, if I could come in under 150, that would be great. And so I was like, oh, I couldn't do the runner's math fast enough. I'm like, I don't know, what pace do I need to be able to break 150? I'm like, I don't know. I can't figure this out. And so I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to run as hard. I got 2 miles, figure it out. So my last 2 miles, I think I had a slightly faster pace. I think that first of the 2 miles was kind of okay, but when that downhill section, I was like, that's where I got to make my move if I'm going to break the 150 mark. And so I was running like almost a sprint pace. I'm sprinted to say that, but it was right at 7 minute mile, maybe just a tick under.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to be enough, but it's all I got. And so I finally got to where that starts to level back out, and then you sort of pitch back up into the finish line. And I looked looked down just as I got to the finish line, and I was 50 seconds over. So like 1:50:50 was my finish time. I'm like, what is it with me and like sub 1 minute from my goal? I mean, at Unbound, I was like 43 seconds, and here I'm 50 seconds. I'm like, apparently I'm like just bad enough. I can't get to that. Just
make the goal and then just add a minute.
Add a minute to it, and that's good. So yeah, I was pretty ecstatic. I knew it was a good run, because I was in a true tempo pace the whole time.
Yeah.
And you always talk about, this is why I think, it's so important when people say like, oh, listen to your body and run on feel and all this. It's so important, that consistency in the training, because how many times have we run those intervals in the training early, especially, when you were finally able to get back around and out of your illness, and how many times that 8:30 pace, you're just like, gosh, I don't know, like, is this going to come around? Like, man, it came around, and it was a true tempo pace.
And the thing is if I was listening to my body, I would have walked. Exactly. Because my body was just screaming at me to stop. And I was like, shut up, legs. I was like, we're freaking doing this. I'm like, oh, here's the deal. If the heart rate's fine, you're just going to keep jamming. Yeah. And so that's what we did. And then I only crossed the finish line, 25 seconds after you did.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
It was 151:15 or something like that.
So. Yeah, I remember crossing, and I was looking to try to find my wife, and I couldn't find her, and then I walked down, and some poor kid, he actually had ran the race, and he had one of the cans of water that they were handing out, and I thought he was a volunteer handing, because he was kind of holding it out. And I pointed at him, I'm like, hey, can I have that? And he looks at me, he goes, I guess. And then I realized he's got a medal around it. I'm like, oh, wait, you're the kid that beat me. Never mind. You need that.
Us,
yeah,
probably.
You need more than that. Yeah, you're good. Sorry.
He's like, no, this is like my 5th one. I've been here for a while.
I went ahead and I had a steak dinner too.
I was waiting for you guys.
Yeah, there were a couple of kids that were fast there. But anyway, I grabbed a water and I turned around. You were right there. So I was really happy that you had that kind of performance. That's a testament to just willingness to suffer. Because your fitness was not really there to put that kind of effort in. That was just pure grit to figure out how to get it done.
That was painful from the beginning.
Well, and I knew how much it took out of you, because after the race, when we were walking around, we go get our gear bag, and I actually felt pretty good. Like, you know how it is. Like once you kind of get done, everything starts to. I felt pretty good, and then the doubt starts creeping in. Like, well, did I not push hard enough? Maybe I should have been pushing harder. Maybe I didn't run hard enough. Maybe I didn't tap in. And those are all real questions I have to figure out. But
maybe you're not on a one-to-one level with suffering like I am.
Apparently not. So I need to have invited over for dinner and tuck into bed at night. But But yeah, so you were struggling with the.
I was limping.
Didn't help that the kid didn't see your bag and sent you back around like a half mile back around to go find the lost and found, and then your bag was actually right where it should have been the whole time. So
it's like, oh my gosh, nothing's worse than walking after you do a running event. It's like, oh,
so good,
forget it.
Good, but no, you had a great race. It was, I know it was not an easy one for you. It'd be interesting though if you had felt good, you weren't sick. It'd be interesting how that race would have finished up. Like would I have beat you? I don't know. I mean, maybe I would have found another gear and I would have just ran away from you. I don't know. I guess these are questions we're going to have to answer another day.
So I think with the sickness, with me mouth breathing and stuff, I did have to make, like my priority was aid stations because I was insanely thirsty.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, I don't know. I still don't think I would have won. I probably would have pushed you harder.
Probably. I know you would have done that because that's just natural. Right. Yeah.
So I think I would have, if I wasn't sick, I probably would have pushed you harder.
Yeah.
But I still would have lost because, like I said, when you miss, and we'll get into this now, like, your lessons learned. Yeah. When you miss your capstone, workouts.
Got to hit those.
It doesn't show up in the beginning of the race. Yeah. It shows up in the race when it counts. And that's what happened at mile 10 and 11 when you made that surge and I cramped up.
Yeah.
If I would have completed a little bit more of those those intervals, I would have been able to probably hold on.
I know when we were in the training block and there were during those weeks that you were not feeling well and you weren't able to do the interval run, but you did the long run or the endurance run, like if you were feeling good enough to do those, and that's fine. But like then somewhere, I don't know, 5-6 weeks before the race, you started flipping it where you were doing the interval run, but you maybe didn't do the 3 mile easy run or you almost always did the 7, 8, 10 mile, whatever our long run was. But if there was an interval, you were doing the intervals in that last 6 weeks. And I wonder if you could have just done the intervals from the beginning, if that might have been enough. Because your fitness was fine because you were still swimming for a big chunk of this. Yep. Like you were still able to swim. You were still getting some bike rides in, for easy miles on the bike. So I think your base would have been fine. I just think you're right. I think those capstone workouts are the key. And, that's part of the thing about having a good training plan. And then again, we kind of come back to what we started with. Things like TrainerRoad and these other AI-based programs, I mean, they're great, but if you don't have somebody to like talk to you about like, hey, I know you're not feeling well, but I'm going to adjust your plan and we're going to make sure you get this, this, and this, and here's why. Right.
And it's like, it's the thing of going, what is your goal, right? Mm-hmm. So like if I was coaching me back in November and it would have been like, all right, well, your goal is to hit this pace. Yeah. So what you need to do is you need to take some meds, feel good, and get that interval done. Work every single week. Right. You don't need to worry about the long run. That stuff will come along. You have endurance, all that other stuff. You're doing other stuff. But it's like, do those interval work.
For sure.
As much as you can.
I think on the positive side, as far as like, what do we learn from this? So I mean, I would say that's a great one for, it's easy to kind of get down about that, but it's just the reality. And I think it's important to,
it's just what happened.
But I mean, like people need to understand like that's so important. Like find a way to muscle it through the critical workout, unless you're just truly out. But I think on the,
and to go back to like, if this has truly been an A race, you couldn't have stopped me from doing intervals.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. Like again, it comes back to like, this is our ability to our opportunity to cross train, you know? And so this is why we do it. It's fun from the standpoint of it's a way to get a break from cycling. Fun. It's type 2 fun for sure.
Yeah. Type 3 fun. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
I don't even, type 2 fun is it was fun in the moment or fun after the event. It's not fun. Like it was, the whole moment was horrible and all of it.
Yeah, you're just happy it's done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that. But you're exactly right. I mean, this is a true A race. All that stuff would have been turned around. But the reality is this is to support cross training for a bigger goal later on in the year. And so this is not the big goal of the year. I think on the other side, as far as lessons, I think one of the things I learned here was the value of this type of plan and this type of structure in a 12-week plan. I think doing it all over again, I would have probably tried to do like a 16-week plan instead of a 12-week plan, and started the runs earlier and overlap bike season a little bit more, which would have been logistically might have been challenging, but I think it would have been worth it. And the reason is I think this type of plan is different than any of the plans we've used before in a lot of good ways. It incorporated a lot more speed work than I think we're typically used to. And I think that has given, like, what it's helped me realize is, like, just because you do an endurance sport and we do these longer endurance events doesn't mean you get a free pass to ignore the really hard efforts. And there were some really hard efforts in this training block that really challenged. And I think that's the piece that I'm going to carry into the bike season, where it's like, hey, you can't just rely on, well, I'm going to go do my base again. I'm going to go do my VO2 max. And then that's all I'm going to do. Like, you got to figure out, like, the plan has to incorporate those other challenges, because I mean, I opened up a whole different level of running that I haven't had access to in the last, well, ever, but definitely from the last couple of years of running, I've never had access to running. I beat my half marathon time by 10 minutes. Yeah. Like, that's not.
Well, you had, I think you were looking at all your PRs, and it's like you beat.
I set a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon PR. Yeah. I set a 5 mile and a 10 mile PR. Yeah. So, like, every measurable, other than the 400, the 800, and the mile, those are the only things I did not PR in this race. And now that the question is like, well, is that because you just never went out and pushed? Well, I've done a couple of half marathons, and I've done multiple half marathons as part of full marathons. And I PR'd the last time we did a full. I PR'd a half in that. So, like, the reality is I don't typically go run a half marathon just to go run it. But at the same time, like, the intensity of my workouts, it just goes back to show, like, I clearly have not put the right focus on intense workouts. Yeah. And I think that's why I even mentioned, like, I actually am kind of excited. Like, I hope it warms up so I have a chance to go do a 5K and see where that goes.
Yeah, that'll be good.
So good stuff.
Yeah. So looks like I'll probably be running again later in the year.
Yeah. Later in the year?
Yep.
Yeah, I think I muted you out there. But
yep.
Didn't
probably
mean to. Yeah, muted the wrong one.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna, after we get done with Unbound, I'll probably throw in another running block and see if I can't PR that half marathon. Well, I feel like I've got some skills and I've got some stuff, and I think it's time to see how fast we can get.
Well, the other thing is we got a flyer for the Vegas Marathon, and I'm like, don't you do this to me, guys? You guys are killing me.
It looks nice.
It's almost 2K elevation drop from it. It's a bigger elevation drop than the Mesa one that we just did. So I'm tempted. I really am.
I mean, you run from Red Rocks all the way down to Fremont. So it's all downhill. Yeah. There's no uphills down there.
There's a small section that flattens out. I think like the last 10K is flat.
And when you get to Fremont Street. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that might be in the cards. I mean, we'll see. We gotta figure it out. But this is why, it's you stay fit. You can go out and just do these things sometimes. And in October, I know we talk about doing some bike races and stuff, but it might be a chance to see if the fitness can come around to a sub 3 hour. I don't know, that'd be a lot of fitness gain, but we're coming off of a strong bike, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. So ready for some rapid fire?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, ChatGPT is feeling a little spicy today. So
it told me I was going to go 650s, but I didn't.
You did not.
I went 820.
So the first question on rapid fire. So ChatGPT wants to know, was that a race or just a really expensive jog for you?
That was a race. It's always good. I think, there's some people that can kind of separate themselves from, the race atmosphere or whatever. And I think you've seen it, and I've talked about Serena. Serena she has the gift that I have too, is when we put that bib number on, it's on. Yeah. It is I can't get what I get out of myself in training that I can when I put that bib number on.
Well, there's truth in that. And it's funny because we go out and run 13 miles on a Sunday in a long run, or Saturday or Sunday in a long run. And like, I'm ready to, like, other than like when it's cold and you just don't want to do it. You're like, yeah, okay, let's go do it. Man, that morning I was like fidgety, and I was like, it's like, but this is just a freaking run. And it's like, we talked about this in that morning. It's like, there's nothing different. It's like, the only thing is it's a race.
Yep.
And if you don't have those sort of pre-race jitters, it means you probably don't have the right goal. Because we had goals.
Yeah.
Like we were just going out and running 13 miles and just casually strolling down the street. There would have been no jitter. Like, all right, let's get this thing going. And probably, in fact, motivation to actually go do it might not have been there, because like, I don't feel like running.
Yeah, if I was having quad issues, I'd be like, oh, my quad hurts. I could just stop now.
In the back of that truck over there.
I'll just stop and get a ride home and all that other stuff.
That's right.
So it's, I think racing, and that's why I advocate racing so much, is because you get such, you get a chance to like kind of find out like what you're made of and like how willing to, like, I don't know how hard you're willing to push yourself. And for me, it's when I think about how much pain it was the whole thing hurt. And it was from start to finish. And then even a little bit after the finish, I was still in pain.
Yeah. So, how'd you feel the next day? I didn't even get a chance to ask you about that.
So I think, getting my, my run analysis and then doing that, the PT and stuff, my run form is a little bit better.
Yeah.
But unfortunately now it activates muscles that I haven't used. And so it kind of put a little bit of strain on my, like where the tendon inserts into your calf muscle.
Okay.
And so I, soaked in Andy's hot tub, and then they had like their pool, but it's not heated. So then I alternated heat and cold, heat and cold.
Yeah.
And then I was fine.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that, a lot of the training things out there will tell you is like, don't try to, change your running form, weeks before a race, because it's too late. Like, all that stuff should be done early on in the training blocks.
And again, if I would have been doing intervals and stuff, I would have built that muscle up. But
exactly,
basically it held on for 8 miles. Yeah. And then after that, it was like, this is the longest run you've done. And so like, now we're going to fall apart.
All right. So ChatGPT wants to know, if this were someone else's race performance, what harsh criticism would you be throwing at him?
I wouldn't. I would be super stoked, because I think the first mile and the mile where I cramped were the slowest, and they were it was 8:43 and 8:53 were respectively. So it's like, you wanted to go sub 9 on every mile.
Yeah.
You did it.
I agree. I think it's funny. Like, people always think about like, oh, I didn't achieve the goal, so I must be getting, it's like, what, like, you should always celebrate the good things in these events. Like, even if we both came in at 2 hours, which again, not to try to throw times out there, because there's a lot of people that finish 2 hours and set their own PR on the day, and you should be super, super happy about that. And I mean, even if we had come in at 2 hours with the goal of like 145, 150, we still would have found something positive in the day to celebrate, and a lot of times just, because if we came in at 2 hours, it's probably because something like your quad locked up, and like, hey, just the fact that you finished it is a huge accomplishment.
Well, perseverance too.
That's
like,
right.
People just don't, like,
there's not enough credit for that.
No. Like, you finished it. That's the huge accomplishment right there.
Yeah. So there's another one on here. ChatGPT doesn't really know you very well, because it says, you preach never give up, never quit, but at what point did you mentally check out and just accept failure?
Oh, the first mile.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I don't think anything was failure though. I tell you, when you pulled ahead, I really did wonder, like, shit, you're sandbagging on me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was banking on the fact that one of two things: either you were just feeling much better than you anticipated, and so you were going to ride that until it just fell apart, which is kind of what happened, really. Yeah. Or you weren't sure where you were at, and you were like, you know what, I'm going to find out real quick. We're not going to wait around. Little column A, little column B. We're not going to wait around. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah, because I'm really one of those people that, like, when I put myself in these situations, it's kind of like I'm judging whether or not I can hold this for as long as I think it's going to take. So I'm like, how much acceptable pain am I willing to be in?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So one of the questions on here is at what mile did you realize your goal was completely out of reach?
I think mile 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you had to kind of
when I kind of stood up and locked up, I was like, maybe I can still make it. But then I looked and I was like, I think I have to run like 7-minute miles.
Yeah.
And I was doing the quick runner's math, and it wasn't really making sense.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think so. But I'm like, I think I'm going to be close to 150. And so I was like, then I was like, well, I'm like, just hold on and see where you're at the end. Cause basically if it doesn't pan out, you still had a great race. Like, I mean, the amount of training that I put in, like if I was going to give me a letter grade, it would be a D for the amount of training. Like I was really not happy with it.
Yeah.
The performance of the race, I'd give an A+. Like, I don't, like if I was coaching somebody and just be like, man, you pulled it out. Good for you. Like,
well, when we look at the training plans, and there's a lot of people that think, oh, if you just do 80% of the plan, then you're prepared, right? And I disagree with that, by the way. I don't know that that's exactly accurate. I would say that, you probably, I don't know if there's even a way to calculate this. I would bet you probably did 40% of this plan.
Yeah.
If I had to just kind
of, I'd be hard pressed to say that I did at least 50% of this plan.
And again, it's all the reasons aside, just the fact that, again, that's why I keep coming back to, I'm like, man, for you to put that kind of time out there, I'm pretty sure you would have easily PR'd and you might have been looking at something like, because I think you probably would have been pushing to like 8-minute mile.
Yeah.
You made a comment at the expo. Was it the expo? You made a comment. Oh, it was at the expo because they had the pace chart, the wrist things for the paces on them. And you made a comment about running the 730 something. Paces.
Yeah, to get to
and you were like actually like giving it some serious thought, and I think I wasn't trying to discourage you, and I hope you didn't take it that way, but I think we know each other well enough. I would never discourage you if you thought you could hit it, but I made the comment. I was like, I would be shocked if you could hold that. Like, and I wasn't, again, I would never discourage somebody. If you think you can do it, by all means, go do it. But I was really saying it because I didn't want to see what was going to happen when you did. like you would have, like that would have been ugly fast. Maybe I think you would have held on to it for about 2 miles, and then you would have been like, oh no, like what a mistake that was.
I think it was the 140 pace group. So like you'd have to hold 730s.
Yeah.
And so I looked at the splits and I was like, really 7? And I was like, okay, that seems about right. And then I started, I was looking at it, and then I was like thinking about, okay. And then I was thinking about the splits that I got on, the interval, just, the day before or whatever. Yeah. And I was hitting the high end of, like I was hitting 730s on, 400 meter repeats.
Yeah.
And so, and I was like, they felt slow.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there debating it. I was going, I mean, they felt slow, but then again, like, I don't really feel good. So I'm like, I don't think I have this. And so, I mean, I could see where you're thinking. I was definitely debating myself about like whether or not I could do it. And I'm happy. I decided, I think it was just like later that day, I went and looked at both the things, and I was like, look, here's the deal. Your PR is 149, whatever. Yeah. And I was like, just do that. Just do 149.58 or whatever your PR is. Yeah. And just, if you have, for another day, and save it, save the running hard for when you actually can put together,
the training in.
Put in a good block.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you, again, had the right, if you had the right plan and had the ability to, if you could go back in time, I may set this up different. If you could go back in time and you weren't sick and you could have worked at the paces and the interval paces required to achieve that 730 pace, whatever it was, I think somewhere in that third week, you would have recognized if it was attainable or not.
Yeah.
And because that's about where I figured it out. Like, oh, I just don't know. And the reason I challenged it when we were there was because I could tell you were basing it off of like those most recent runs. And I'm like, but you probably feel the best you felt in 2 months at that moment. That's despite the head cold, but like legs and heart, like, you know, I could like, cause even if you don't feel like you earned the taper, you still were in taper.
Yeah.
And your legs probably felt pretty dang good because you hadn't had like, you've had a good 5 solid weeks of training going into that. So I'm sure you felt pretty good. So, and we even talked about like you did a shakeout run on your own on Wednesday or Thursday. And I know you said that you felt pretty good there. So, all right. So on a positive note, we're going to wrap up here on rapid fire with a positive one here. So even if you didn't hit your exact goal, what part of your race are you most proud of?
Just finishing, I guess.
Just finishing. Glad I finished.
Yeah. Just happy I finished. I mean,
I'd say
I don't. So like, I think there's a lot of people that put a lot of stock in whether or not your race is a success or a failure, right? Like if I was getting paid and I'm lost to
Different
Danny
story.
and I'm, out $1,000 because, I got second place or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. The thing that I take away from this is that my running has improved to the fact that like I'm in the upper third now of runners. Yeah. So it's like, in cycling and stuff and triathlon, I always say like, if I can be in the top 20 to 25%, then I'm really like, I'm in there.
Right.
Right. And that's good because like, you're going up against the whole spectrum of people. Whereas running, it's like, I've never been remotely close to anything decent. And then I look at our results and I was 61st out of 200.
Yeah. That's a good spot to be.
And I was like, well, that's in the upper third. I'm like, heck, if I ran just a little bit faster, got a couple places, I mean, not even much faster, just a little bit faster.
Well, I think if you were running that 7:30 pace, I had to go back and look, but I'd be willing to bet you're probably in the top 40.
Yeah.
And then, you might be a 7-minute pace to get into the top 20. And now, again, I mean, 7 minutes, there's a big difference between a 7-minute pace and an 8:30.
Yeah,
no doubt.
there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But the thing that I took away from it was just that like, oh, I'm not as crap as I think I am all the time. or my running form makes me look like.
Right.
So
well, I think your running form, so this is what I'm really excited about. This is why I think the Vegas Marathon might be a good idea. Oh, I can't believe I said that.
You heard it here first, folks.
Oh, geez. Somewhere out there, Britta is going, I knew I would convert them.
Yep,
now if we can just get them on a trail.
If we can just get them on the trail
and
get them into ultra running.
Exactly.
She's going to be all about it.
But no, I think if you have a solid training block combine that with, obviously the fitness from a summer of biking is always a good thing. We both talked about, just from the biking side, goals to drop a little bit of weight, which, may or may not happen, but if some of that happens, and then put in a good solid, like 18-week training plan based on similar to what we just did for this half, like I could see a really strong effort coming out in another situation where maybe you just blow away the PRs.
Yeah.
So
it'd be good.
Yeah. So cool, man.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Well,
anything else?
Suffer complete.
You got it.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.